peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very good afternoon to you. 3 p.m. here in Nairobi. A lovely afternoon here, sunny, and the weather is really beautiful. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and the show is DIASPORA Dispatches, where we get a look at the news making headlines across the continent of Africa, as well as our topic of today, which focuses on South Sudan, and we shall be looking at the South Sudan Revitalized peace agreement. Is it holding so far with the latest developments? So thank you so much for joining us, and to help me out in this conversation, joining me on the panel is Douglas Kirimi from the central part of Kenya. Douglas, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Miriam, and good afternoon to all our viewers and also to our crew back at our headquarters in Nairobi. Thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, very well. Karibu sana. So before we get into our conversation of the day, I have a few news items here that I think we should bring our viewers up to date before we get into our topic of the day. And that the first news comes from Uganda, where Ugandan presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine, ended a radio interview with a Kenyan station abruptly after he said the military had raided his house. Now, Mr. Kyagulanyi was being interviewed on Hot 96 radio morning show when he said he had to go as he could see military officers beating up his security. Some commotion could be heard in the background moments before he disconnected his call. The singer-turned-politician has in the past decried harassment from security officers in the run-up to the 14th general elections. His bodyguards were killed last month when he ran over by a vehicle belonging, when one of them was ran over by a vehicle belonging to the military police. And then we go to Nigeria, where the Nigerian military says 13 soldiers died in an ambush at the weekend by jihadist fighters from a group linked to the Islamic State. Heavy gunfire and rocket-propelled grenades hit a military convoy in Gazagana village in northeastern state of Yobe on Saturday. The army initially said that only one soldier had died and 28 jihadists had been, in its words, neutralized. The Islamic State West Africa province group split from Boko Haram group in 2016 and carries out regular attacks on soldiers in Yobe, with the violence spilling over into neighboring Borno state. And then we go to Malawi, where President of Malawi, President Lazarus Chakwera, has taken personal blame for being among those responsible for the recent rise in COVID-19 cases in the country. There's been a collective sense of relaxation in adherence to COVID prevention measures among many Malawians, including myself. Mr. Chakwera said in a radio address on Sunday. The president was heavily criticized last week when images and videos circulated showing him and visiting pop musician Madonna from the US shaking hands and posing for pictures without wearing masks or observing a social distance. So those are just a few news items from across the continent before we get into our topic of today. And Douglas, is there any of those news that you want to react to before we get on with our topic?
Yes, Miriam, I think the issue in Malawi, I'm very glad the president has taken responsibility for that. But also, it is also a call to other leaders across the world, including in the Western countries. We have seen Trump hosting people at State House for a rally. And also, we have seen President of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi, going to Chato and also meeting people and all that. You know, most of these ordinary people that go sing for this president and also greet them are ordinary people that have no insurance cover, especially those from Africa. When they are greeted by this president and COVID is spread, people are going to die. For example, in our country, Kenya, we have a very rogue deputy president who has been spreading COVID, especially the whole of COVID season. Then it takes 1 month after now, people close to him start dying and also their mothers. Then you declaim that he has been going to do fundraisings. Fundraisings can wait, people in Africa and also presidents. And there's also everyone that is going out there doing political meetings, there is no Arambe that cannot wait. God is not in a hurry building his church. People are not praying under trees. And if they are praying under trees, it will be better if they are saved from the pandemic than also building brick and mortar churches that will be no people to worship from their media.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. And also that story from Uganda. I know we did a piece about Uganda yesterday, and we shall do that on Thursday, as Uganda is set to go to its elections on Thursday, the 14th of January. And so we shall look at the latest. There's another interview you're just watching a few minutes before I came here, where President Museveni did, I think, a day ago or 2 days ago, I'm not sure, but very recent, and how he answered his response to some of the questions that was being answered in line with the the elections, and it's quite interesting interview there. And President Museveni's responses were quite something. So we shall have that on Thursday. I'll come armed with that evidence, with a video, the interview, part of the interview there. So we shall just have that conversation. But this morning, Bobby Wine was having a radio interview by one of the radio stations here in Kenya. I think Jeff Koinange was the one who was a renowned journalist from Kenya, was the one who was interviewing him, and he had to end that interview roughly because he said he was looking outside and he could see military personnel were harassing his security detail, and I think they wanted to arrest him. I mean, I'm not really surprised.
You see, what General Museveni is doing is what is known as late arrival, or also late realization that he has lost the grip over the younger constituency that are the supporters of Bobby Wine. Remember, these young people are determined by all means, and President Museveni didn't see that these young people can go and also cause a lot of havoc to his administration. Remember, in elections and times like this, and I don't understand what his advisors are doing to him, you don't deal with young people and also so many people who have also decided to give up their properties to support Bobby Wine. These people are tired, and also at this point you don't use military or police, because the day President Museveni will leave power, these same people are going, the police and also the military are going to say we are sorry and move to the other person that will come into power. So the day Mugabe's government fell in Harare, there was no indication from the military or the police that they are going to defend the Mugabes. So Museveni, who has reached the age of diminishing returns, according to my own personal claims, he needs to understand that the young constituency of voters in Uganda cannot be handled the way he used to handle suppression in his own NRM in 1986. He needs to also understand that the young people don't understand his role in the bush and all that, and these young people are ready to defend their nation and also their country. Miriam, I think at this point he should just leave Bobby Wine alone, because he has historian the vote alone already. He can now be able now to put up his legal team or now to defend his vote. If he's defeated, the people of Uganda can go back to ballot, or give Bobby Wine power or any person that would have won the election correctly, because the people have vacated the Museveni's camp. He has a few farmers and few old people who understand his role in the war of 1986 and also from 1991, 1986. The younger people don't understand that and they don't respect that. He has done his bit in Uganda, but as of now, these young people should not be adult using military boots and also being killed by live bullets by General Museveni and his people.
All right, very well, Douglas. Thank you so much. And as I said, on Thursday, we shall have a special show and we shall look at Uganda, even as the country will be going to its election on that day. So we shall have more on Uganda on Thursday. But for now, let us turn our attention to our topic of the day, and that is South Sudan Revitalized peace agreement. Is it holding? And remember, the peace agreement was signed on in 2018 after years of fighting. 2 years after South Sudan got its independence from Sudan, the country was plunged into a civil war. South Sudan got its independence in 2011. 2013, the war broke, and that has really seen over 400,000 lives being lost there. So just 2 years after gaining its independence, as I said there, South Sudan fell into a bloody civil war, largely along ethnic lines, and so far over 400,000 people have since died. The story of South Sudan's latest unstable government begins with the collapse of the last peace deal in 2016. A short-lived unity government between Machar and Kir ended with an explosion of violence in July of that year, and government soldiers rampaged through the streets of Juba. Rebel forces were battered by tanks and helicopters, and opposition leader and the first vice president had to flee. Riek Machar had to flee on foot to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so in September 2018, another peace deal between Kir and Machar was signed in Ethiopia. And that is what we are calling the Revitalized Peace Agreement. It was signed in 2018, and 4 years, Machar had refused to return to South Sudan. An opposition negotiator, said that after the signing, Machar was afraid. In 2018, he was afraid because 2 years prior to that, he almost lost his life. So he was afraid to go back to Juba. But after, I think, their visit to Vatican in 2019, when the Pope went and kissed their feet, after that, Riek Machar started becoming comfortable and started visiting, Juba more often. Remember, he was under house arrest in Sudan. He was in Sudan because IGAD. These are just some of the recommendations that IGAD had agreed that Riek Machar be held closer to home in Sudan. And so after the kissing of feet, Riek Machar started making more regular visits to Juba, and the peace deal was becoming more realistic despite missed deadlines. Remember, they missed deadlines 2 times. After the peace deal was signed in 2018, they were given 6 months to able to constitute a transitional government. May that year came and passed, and nothing was in the offing. No, before May that year. September, and then 6 months later, that was not in the offing, so they were given another date that was in the following year in May. That also passed, so they asked for an extension, and that another 6 months was given in November 2019. Also, that passed, and so last year, after November 2019 deadline passed, they asked for 100 more days, and I think stakeholders in the peace process in South Sudan said enough is enough. You keep playing games with us, we're getting tired of you, so you only have 100 days and nothing more. So they were forced into having an agreement, and we saw them sign that agreement on the 22nd of February last year. So far we've seen now, from what I was reading yesterday, they want to extend the transitional period, and since signing that agreement last year on the 22nd of February, they're supposed to have 3 years of transitional period so that South Sudan is able to address some of the issues before they're able to go for an election. But so far, that and some of the issues that were supposed to be addressed has not been addressed. I don't know. Douglas Kirimi, have you been following this the peace in South Sudan, and do you think that the revitalized peace agreement that was signed in 2018 is holding in any form or shape?
Thank you, Miriam, and thank you for that question on South Sudan. One thing I need to put myself clear on is that when peace is lacking, when there is no peace, without peace, people refuse reluctance in return to their normal lives. Remember, when there is war, when men and women are fighting, or when a nation is fighting, men will go to war. Who will suffer? Women, young girls, and also young children. The people of South Sudan that have no means of moving to other countries and also securing asylum in other countries have been the greatest casualties of the warring functions in South Sudan. Remember, the biggest three signatories to this peace agreement in South Sudan don't suffer. Their families live in posh estates in Nairobi and other countries. They are people who benefit 100%, and these other ordinary people keep on suffering the effects of this war. And even after the effects of war, these people have not committed to getting the people of South Sudan into their normal lives, and also making sure that the people of South Sudan have reconciled from their past. Remember, Miriam, for these peace talks to hold, and also everything else to hold that has been negotiated in South Sudan, we need to be able to factor in the common man, the common person in South Sudan, in different regions of South Sudan, in different states of South Sudan. Everyone needs to feel that this peace has been achieved and also help themselves. remember, Miriam, when these people go negotiating in Nairobi, in Khartoum, in Johannesburg, we've never seen them flying ordinary people in planes or trains or whatever means they'll put them there to go and negotiate peace and also give out their views on how they want to coexist with other ethnic communities and everything. We all know that Salva Kiir is in power today because he's the ethnic group of groupings, and also people that back him in power are also people that are helping him and also backing him up. At the end of the day, what we need to see in South Sudan is a demonstrable goodwill from the politicians who are involved, Riek Machar, Thomas Siriro, and also Dr. Riek Machar and also Salva Kiir. We need to see them involve their different communities. We need to see community to community engagement for us to have lasting peace in these processes.
All right, very well. Thank you so much. And we're also joined by Kidi Mwaga. Kidi, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us. All right, so Kidi is still trying to join us there. When he's able to join us, then we shall continue with this conversation. And so, yeah, how many years later? The Revitalized Peace Agreement was signed in 2018, and there has been accusations towards the leadership of South Sudan, and that is that they are not committed, because now we see, and we shall see an assessment from the United Nations Security Council in the progress of the peace, the Revitalized Peace deal there in South Sudan. But the South Sudanese leadership and the stakeholders there that were part of this peace deal have been accused of not having the will to see that this peace deal actually comes to fruition, because there is a Dunning report that came out last year that said the leadership of South Sudan would rather maintain the status quo, because as the chaos continues in South Sudan, they get to benefit it, because a lot of illicit activities happen there in South Sudan, because when you don't have order, then people get to do whatever they can do anyway, and there's no structures of accountability. So that has been some of the arguments there that has been made as to why perhaps the peace process is very slow, because of the lack of the will from the leadership there in South Sudan. So I'm joined by Kidi Mwaga. I don't know if he's able to join us now. Kidi, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Miriam, and thank you for letting me join you on Punchline TV.
All right, very well. And I know Ambassador Maina Gan will also be joining us shortly, but I don't know, a story on South Sudan, I think I'm very passionate about it, because as Kenyans, we know firsthand perhaps the troubles that South Sudanese have been going through, and we know Kenya has been very vital in midwifing the peace process there in South Sudan. And we have so many of them. Where I grew up, some area in Nairobi, I grew up with a lot of South Sudanese, because I think that time the war was at its height, and we had so many of them coming into Kenya. So we know firsthand, and we have interacted with them, we have been with them. And when you talk to them, fine, Kenya offered them a safe haven, but a lot of them are thinking, I wish a day would come where I could go back to my country and rebuild my country and be proud to be a South Sudanese and be proud to be staying there in South Sudan. So the leadership there has been accused of lacking the will to see a true peace process is able to be achieved there in South Sudan. What do you make of that?
Well, you see, someone said that the case of sanction and
we seem to be having a problem with the reception there, Kidi. So if you can work on that. We're not able to get you very clearly. Are you able to hear me now? Go ahead.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
yes,
go ahead.
Thank you. I was saying that someone said that the South Sudanese problem is a case of sanctioned kleptocracy, stealing at the very top. And the case is that the vice president in South Sudan, Riek Machar, was stealing from the coffers. And then the president himself, Salva Kiir, was also doing the same. So that their fallout was premised on a scramble for the resources of the South Sudan. And therefore, now that they are apart, you realize that there are huge swaths of South Sudan that are controlled by SPLA in opposition. And then there are sections of South Sudan that is controlled by government or the SPLA soldiers. So therefore, it means that both of these factions are making sure that, one, they extort the populations within the areas that they control. Two, there is also the many activities that are taking place in these places, including, but not limited to, mining of oil. And they are ensuring that these oil dollars end up in their private pockets. So it works to their advantage to ensure that the conflict continues, which is, of course, to the detriment of the ordinary people of South Sudan.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. And we're also joined by Ambassador Maina Ghana. Ambassador, very good afternoon to you. I don't know what time it is where you are, but it's about 22 minutes past 3 p.m. here in Nairobi. So how are you today?
Hello, very good evening to everyone. Oh, it's afternoon, right?
Mm-hmm. It's afternoon. All right.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. So, Ambassador, we are looking at the match South Sudan, and I don't know if you've been following the events in South Sudan. I have been since the revitalized, since South Sudan gained its independence. I remember I was so jubilated, very happy for South Sudan, and then 2 years later, they plunged into a civil war that has never stopped. And in 2018, they had signed a revitalized peace agreement. And now there are some worries that some of the key things that were supposed to be implemented so far has not been implemented. Who would you place the blame to in regards to the slow implementation of some of these important aspects of the peace agreement?
Well, thank you, Miriam. I don't know if we say who am I going to put the blame. I am not of the sign of blaming, but I can give you my view on what's going on in South Sudan.
Well, somebody has to take
Number
responsibility.
Say again?
I'm saying somebody has to take responsibility.
Yeah, in Africa, yes. Always we need to blame someone, at least to feel good. But we don't want to share responsibility. If I tell you that, who are you blaming now? Do you want to blame President Salva Kiir or Riek Machar? Who do you want to blame to make South Sudan better?
So what is your opinion on what is going on in South Sudan, Ambassador?
Yeah, the situation, first of all, in my view, you see, when a country or a people has spent a lot of their time having the difficulties fighting, it's difficult to get someone to what can I call it, to govern them. You see, South Sudan has been renowned first of all fighting for their independence. They are warriors. You get my point? It's not like Kenya that they wake up, they get independence, and it's very easy for them. They have to fight for it. Like with Sudan, there was warriors. South Sudan, like we can talk for 30 years, John Garang was leading the country to get their independence based of their fighting, their struggles. Now, we need to understand human being, how it operates first, Miriam. When you become a warrior, it's not easy to govern yourself. This spirit is there. Like at any time, like you can be irritated. We can blame everyone. We can blame God or Salva Kiir or whoever. But when you go back to the story, you find out this kind of people, how did they come first to have their independence? By struggling. So there are two wounded lions who just, get a rest, like they take just a rest. So in order for them to get each other, it will take time. We have to understand that. It's not as easy as that. We can blame. We can say this guy don't want peace. The other one, they are irritated. Even you can say that outside the country, when you see that the life of South Sudanese, even in the traffic, you will see that these people are so irritated, not because they are bad, because the concept, Miriam, sometimes when you have been living in the difficulties, stress for long, you become someone that is not easy to listen, to understand, or to come together to have an agreement. Peace agreement is just a piece of paper, but it doesn't mean it can make a country better. If the people of the country has not have a conscience, they don't have awareness of what is their situation and how to go about it. We will blame God, we will blame Salva Kiir, we will blame Riek Machar. But at the end of the day, if we go to the root cause, it's right. They are fighting SPLM and SPLM-IO. All of them was SPLM before, right? Mm-hmm. So why they divide themselves? So mean that there is misunderstanding, right? The misunderstanding is coming from where? We need to know the basic of this misunderstanding. Sometimes human being, if you are not being understood, Miriam, you will continue to fight. That's why the majority of those our countries, we have problem in Africa, because some of the people are misunderstood. Because if I don't share your view, Miriam, you can label me as a bad person. How do you want me to cooperate with you one day? That's the truth. I said, I'm giving a simple example. I said that I don't believe in Punchline Africa TV. So automatically make me your enemy, right? That is the situation we are having in Africa, that we don't want to address the issue. Both of them was SPLM. I know both of them personally. They are not bad people, but the situation, the ideology are not matching. And if human beings have the mismatch ideologies, every time there will be trouble. But how to address it? Let's say, for me, I don't say we blame one or we blame two. The situation is they don't have a common ground between themselves to agree that you take this position, I respect your position. Everyone want to be the boss. It cannot happen in this world. Someone have to be a number one and someone have to be number two. But in the case they don't agree, there is war. Do you think that that is the situation we're having in many African countries? I'm watching your program. Why you guys are talking about the BBI? Because some people are not happy. They don't agree with this BBI. That's why there is a tension, right? This is a situation going in all the African countries. Anytime when there is a problem, we don't want to understand the other side. We don't want to sit down, to listen them, we have to sympathize also to make sure that their reason is working, is why they are behaving this way. What is the cause of their problem? Is that any way we can come together to match it? We will spend our whole energy. I will say it we will spend our entire lifetime just blaming if we cannot understand the situation of these people.
All right.
The war has started since 2013, I remember, right?
Yeah, 2011
or 13.
They got independence in 2011. The war started 2 years after the independence day, 2013.
2 years.
Ambassador, I will come back to you. Douglas, a couple of things there that the ambassador have spoken to, and he's saying that South Sudanese, they had to fight really hard to get the independence from Sudan, and apparently the fighting spirit hasn't left. Now they fought to leave Sudan, and now they're fighting within themselves. And he's pointed into something very key there. They share different ideologies. They're not able to agree when it comes to whatever it is, the important things they're supposed to agree on, so that to enable the country to move forward. But there's a point there, Ambassador is saying, that we cannot place blame on any one of them. What's your response to that? The leadership,
Miriam,
the leadership there.
Yes, Miriam. I will not go the route that Ambassador Maina has gone through, but what I can say is that when the people of South Sudan left the war and also got independence and came, there were so many illiterate people. And these people in South Sudan didn't know anything else. They knew how to go to war and everything. So every time when their tribal leaders go on the negotiation table, sometimes they lack the input of these people. They lack how to engage these communities. They lack a mechanism of how Dr. Riek Machar and also Dr. Salva Kiir can be able to engage his own people. And also when Dr. Riek Machar comes on table, his side maybe belittles the other side, like Ambassador Maina says. They lack a way of engaging and also making sure that everyone is brought on board, and also managing the expectation of the people of South Sudan. When they were getting their independence in 2011, these people were being promised even by their new government. These people were being promised many and great things, but these things have not happened. What have we seen is the plunder and also the destruction of South Sudan through war, and also plunder of natural resources, and also people who are also making a kill from the international community. What am I saying? I'm saying these people who take the money for capacity building and peace building in South Sudan, go to those communities, but do very little to engage those communities. One, and also there are so many people in South Sudan with divergent views on how they can be able to run their country, on how to integrate themselves. But those views cannot be brought to the table because of the egos of their big leaders. And also these communities, most of them are not educated, cannot organize themselves into groups where they can be able to be heard. And also I blame the leaders in South Sudan and also the AU. AU is only seen when they are issuing threats and also ultimatums. They cannot understand the problem in South Sudan. The problem in South Sudan is right inside in South Sudan. For example, when Dr. Salva Kiir went to create more states. When he created more states, he didn't do consultation with other leaders who are opposing his government. He didn't look at the issue of boundaries in South Sudan, Miriam, and that contributed largely to these people feeling excluded. And remember, Miriam, the greatest form of violence is the violence of poverty, exclusion, and lack of opportunities. When Salva Kiir and his government comes and ramps people together and creates new states without consulting the indigenous people and their leaders, it creates a conflict of interest that cannot be able to bring these people together. For the peace in South Sudan to work, they need to reconcile that fact, engage local communities, engage their leaders, and also shift their egos for the sake of the greater good of South Sudan.
All right, very well. Thank you so much. And now there were outstanding issues that were supposed to be that were contained in the Revitalized Peace Agreement of 2018, and one of them was the unification of the armed forces there in South Sudan. You know, every leader there has their own army, army come militia, because that is how they operate. And so that was one of the things that was supposed to be addressed. And then the number of states that we saw became very contentious last year until, Salva Kiir, when South Sudan got its independence from Sudan, it had 10 states. Under Salva Kiir, they were bloated to 32. So Riek Machar wanted the states to be reverted back to 10. And Salva Kiir said, no, we can only increase them to even 52 or something like that. So there was a tug of war until the last minute there, following to the signing of the agreement on 22nd of February, when Salva Kiir agreed to take the states back to 10, but also he added 3 more, what do you call them? 3 more, I've forgotten the name for it. Yes. And so that sort of was sorted out. Of course, Riek Machar's side was not very happy about it, but somehow there had to be a compromise. And there's the issue of boundaries of states, which has not really been addressed properly. So now let's go to the unification of the security forces there in South Sudan. As I said there before, every leader there, President Salva Kiir has army officials allied to him. Riek Machar has army officials allied to him. General Thomas Cirillo has armed forces allied to him, and the rest of them, and there are a lot of militias. And from what we learn, because of the bad conditions in these cantonment sites where the military people are, others are sneaking back into the communities with these guns and all that. So you've seen a lot of community wars happening now in South Sudan because they're not able to account. There's no system that is able to trace these guns that are going back to the people there. So what are the dangers, Kitty, when you have an army of a country, each army allied to a person? And this was the key things that the South Sudanese leaders were supposed to ensure happens, to unify forces so that they become one force for South Sudan and the people of South Sudan and the country of South Sudan. But that has not happened so far. I mean, are we likely to see any tangible peace if this very important aspect of the Revitalized Peace Agreement has not really been addressed properly?
Before I go into the specifics of the peace accord, let me first say from the outset that when we establish the state, the instruments of violence is surrendered to the state by every citizen, so that the state then has the power to then regulate members of its citizenry. So that that is why if you come to the Kenyan case, when we were enacting the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the Constitution expressly stipulated that no individual or political party would purport to hold an armed group, militia, or whichever state, so that the instruments of violence is an exclusive preserve of the state. Whenever an unstate actor is permitted to have instruments of violence and have ability to deploy violence, it begins to diminish and undermine the authority of the state. So that when I come back to the South Sudanese question, is that the moment the two leaders or the warring factions have not been able to entirely submit and surrender their instruments of violence to the state under what we call under the social contract, then it means we still do not have a binding social contract in South Sudan. So then the question is, then what next? The first thing that we have to do, both the people of South Sudan and other partners like IGAD, the African Union and whatnot, is one, to ensure that whoever is at the helm of the South Sudanese government, the state, the head of state, that the state is so empowered that it can then crack the whip on those that then purport to also be having means of deploying violence. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And James Bitoro, thank you for watching and thank you for helping me out there. Yes, they agreed to 10 states and 3 administrative areas. I had forgotten that word over there. And Aden Thon, you're saying the government of South Sudan is being privatized by both Kiir and Machar. And James, you're also saying South Sudanese are blaming Museveni for stopping them from removing this tribal and barbaric regime. Salva Kiir is the equivalent of Idi Amin Dada. So, okay. So, Ambassador, we know IGAD has had some role in ensuring the peace process and mediating that peace process there in South Sudan, but also some member states of IGAD have been accused to be having a hand in the chaos that has refused to stop there in South Sudan. What's your take on that?
So which member? Uganda. Give me an example. Give me an example of a country before I intervene.
Uganda has been accused widely.
So how? Do they have any proof? Because you can accuse something you don't have proof. Do they have any proof that Uganda has been participating, don't want to have South Sudan to have peace?
So my question is, Ambassador, because I don't want us to go round, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. So if IGAD is part of, you know, the stakeholders there who are trying to help South Sudan to get its house in order, but some of the members in IGAD are being accused of having some interest in South Sudan, will that help in finding peace, or, you know, it will just, you know, the merry-go-round will just continue there in South Sudan?
So basically, Miriam, I want us to understand, if a country has been in war, in order to get this peace, it will take a long time. Either we like it or not. I take the example of my country. I come from Chad. That's why you guys have never know what we know. For me, in our younger generation, in school, we know all the quality of the gun in the world. Because the only things we know is war, Miriam, nothing else. Mm-hmm. And in order to clean this mind, it will take time. We are talking about to unify the army first. Let's go back to South Sudan. Okay. To see, Miriam, we just less than 2 years, we are fighting enemies. You kill my family, I kill one of the members of your. In order for us to just lay down the weapon, trust ourselves again, go back, you need time. Mm-hmm. It's easier said than done. You guys are saying it's not. You know, it's psychologically, this trust has to be built, and it will take time to get over, and, you know, to forgive its order and start to build a new nation. This is a big, that's why human beings don't like the war, don't like fight, because in the case there is a fighting, it will take time to rebuild this trust. So now to unify this army, those two, even the two generals who are running the two armies, first of all, they have to agree to trust themselves first. And in order to build trust, how many times it needs? IGAD is just a body who just, you know, talk, write on the document. But now the implementation of all those things need that everybody have to do compromise. The two armies, they have to compromise to understand that right now we need to leave the past and talk about the present to build our future. But it's not an easy task than the more we spend our time blaming, the more the wound is there and we cannot heal it. Mm-hmm. That's why that anytime when two leaders has been fighting, the moment they come in order to sign an agreement, there is a need to start stopping blaming that you are the cause or I am the cause. We need to be understood. At the end of the day, IGAD is just is thinking what the South Sudanese need. But did IGAD know what the South Sudanese want? There is a difference between the need and the want, Miriam. Mm-hmm. If you tell me what I need, you don't understand what I want, we will never have peace, Miriam. Mm-hmm. You have to know what did I want first. If you understand what I want, at the end of the day, you cooperated, you give it to me. Now you can sit down on the table and say, okay, Miriam, the past is the past. Now the situation of South Sudan right now, we want to know what is their wants. What did they want first?
All right.
Now we are fighting what they need. We need peace. We need peace. Yes.
Yes.
So after peace, what do we want then?
What I'm hearing you to be saying is that perhaps the outsiders, the players from outside, perhaps want this peace for South Sudan more than it wants for itself. Or
not
we
about
think
wanting.
they're ready,
If you
but
need,
maybe they think they're not ready.
The need and the one is different. We need peace, but did we want it? If we want peace, mean that there is a lot of work have to be done, and that's what I'm telling you. We need to rebuild the trust.
Okay.
Trust is not there, Miriam. You know.
Yes, I agree.
Trust is not there. Huh? You were saying it earlier that Riek Machar has refused to come back because he needs the guarantees, he needs security.
But he
how come in your own country you are in your own country, you say you need a security? Who's going to do the security for you? Do you want a foreigner to go make and do this? Mean that there is no trust. So this trust has to be built, and it will take time.
Absolutely.
And both have to compromise. They have to come together to understand each other. Creating a lot of state or whatever, all those are expenses. They are not even helping the country.
Thank you.
Those separating boundaries here. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. A very important point there, Ambassador, you brought up about trust, because, a person like Riek Machar in 2016, when he attempted to come back to Juba, a war broke again, and so he was forced to run by foot. He went to the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Doctor, I think, was part of the peace process then, and he really narrates that story. It's quite interesting there. And so my question to Douglas now, therefore, how can South Sudanese, the stakeholders there, start rebuilding this trust? Because that is the key here. Not sides trust each other, and that's why I think it has become very difficult to unify the forces.
Thank you, Miriam. That question is very profound. Actually, I wanted to do a rejoice on that, but thanks for coming through. And one step to achieving the mistrust that runs deep in South Sudan is we need to also see Salva Kiir's of this world, and also Riek Machar's of this world, and also General Thomas of this world. These are kind of the people that we need now. They need to hand over the baton to the next generation of leaders. All agree to do a lot of compromises, because Dr. Riek Machar does not trust Salva Kiir, and President Salva Kiir does not trust Riek Machar, and also the other people who are in that transitional power sharing government don't trust each other. These communities and also ethnicities that not Dr. Riek Machar, that President Salva Kiir has bundled together and formed a new state so that he can continue antagonizing them, and also buying more time to keep ruling the youngest nation on earth, these people should be able to either do compromises like Ambassador Maina said, or continue IGAD, AU, and also the UN to keep pressurizing these groups so that President Salva Kiir is going to demilitarize cities, because he has not demilitarized the cities, he has refused. And also so that Dr. Riek Machar, when they talk about unifying the army and getting all the militia groups into the national army, training them, Dr. Riek Machar, when they had agreed that, and it is part of those agreements that they did in 2018, he didn't send his troops for training, because he disagreed with them. There was also that siege that was at the presidential palace, when Dr. Riek Machar's bodyguards and also the presidential bodyguards engaged in a fight. These kind of confrontations in South Sudan, when communities that don't agree with each other, when communities and ethnicities that continue warring with each other. Remember, the problem here is not even Dr. Riek Machar and Salva Kiir or General Thomas. The problems that fend the violence in South Sudan, the issues that brought about the whole issue in South Sudan, does not directly fall onto their doorstep. There are issues in the communities that they come from. There are issues that emanate that made the war to permit and also grow. But now other issues have cropped up and also taken control of the issue in South Sudan. So what they need to do is to get engaging their communities. After engaging their communities, these other leaders should make compromises or leave the nation to other people, other generation of leaders, because the South Sudan has become the plunderer's center. It has become the center of attention where everyone wants to steal. They form an NGO and go to South Sudan. When a militia wants to come up, they're supplied weapons by Uganda. The one that Ambassador Maina was denying when you said that. Uganda has been accused of supplying arms to militia. But when they support the militias in South Sudan, they come again and say now we want to bring peace there. And also the Sudan of al-Bashir, who was ousted from power, they come now and say we want to bring peace to South Sudan. After bringing peace to what they had created, the monster they had created, and also fend with arms and also fend with some support. That is the kind of a situation in South Sudan that we need to be able to root out from the community level. Okay. Remember the people, the poor masses in South Sudan who cannot be able to do anything for themselves. Dr. Riek Machar's family lives in Kenya, and Salva Kiir family doesn't live in yes, Miriam?
Yes, I'm saying nearly all of them. They have houses here in Lavington and Runda, the best neighborhoods here in Nairobi. Yeah, where the rest of South Sudanese are suffering there because they cannot agree to find peace. Yes, they do.
Yes, Miriam.
All of
Miriam,
them.
These are the same. This is the same situation in Somalia.
Miriam,
yes.
Can I say something?
All of them, Ambassador.
Mr. Douglas, thank you so much. It's very enlightening, but there is two things I want you guys to understand. This world belongs to 1%. This world, the whole world, we are 7 billion, right? This world is run by less than 1 million people, either you like it or not. Or you start to use yourself to agree with that, or just you will waste your energy. Simple, that is rule number one. This world belongs to 1% of the population. You take it or you leave it, Miriam. This is life, it's not me.
So it's 1% of the population, but the majority are getting affected by that war.
Of course, that is 100%. That is everywhere in this world. You cannot tell me that it's 1% of Kenya and all in Kenya. You like it or not, you can scream, go to the TV. That is how the system will be. Is 1% is run in America, is 1% run in Europe. This is 100%. Either we like it or not. The issue is how are we going to cooperate at least to make the 90% their life better? That is the question,
and
right?
That is the conversation we're having. And
that is the conversation we're having. But I want to tell Mr. Douglas, rule number one in this world, you want to look someone that you don't like in this world, and you will learn a lot from him because he will be your best teacher if you take the way you don't like him. We are talking about this Uganda. You ask me a question, I say I deny it. I don't deny it. I want just to tell you. Do you think that Museveni is the cause of the war in South Sudan? No. We all agree that, right? Because it's the two leaders did not agree. That's why they start fighting. Am I right or wrong? Those two leaders are not Ugandans. They are South Sudanese. Am I right or wrong, Mr. Douglas? Now, in the case you start fighting in Kenya and you come to Chad and you say that me, Chad, I don't want Kenya to have peace. That is understatement. That you don't know what you want finally. You started your problem in Kenya, was not there.
But Ambassador Maina, before, let me do a rejoinder on that.
Yes,
I'm coming.
quickly, yes.
You just, let me finish, Mr. Douglas.
Because I'd like us
I
to
don't want you to
start,
start, as a young leader, when you spend your time of accusing people without understanding the root cause, it's just making you blind. Don't be blind. Don't use emotion. For me, I understand that South Sudanese, we know they are from day one, there was warrior, and the two leaders cannot agree that you are my boss. So there is this tension, and the tension, nobody will take the blame, and they always pull it down, and the people are suffering. We all agree.
Nobody will take the blame, we shall blame them ourselves. All right, Douglas, Douglas, you need to finish.
Let me do, before Kidi comes in, let me do a rejoinder to Ambassador Maina.
Quickly. Yes.
The reason why we are blaming these all countries who are fueling the war in South Sudan, Ambassador Maina, when you start fighting with your wife or your children, and the neighbor comes and knives to you, and the next one hands a spear to you, the next one hands you a gun, they are facilitating. What we are saying, we are not saying they started the war in South Sudan. They are facilitating the war.
The moment you start fighting with your wife means that you don't know what you want.
All right.
You cannot run your house.
Okay, very well.
Forget about the knife. What brings you to the level that start fighting with Madam?
All right, so that is the
root
cause.
Can you think about it?
That is the root cause. All right, thank you so much. So now, let me just go to Kidi, because I'd like us to look at the latest report there, where the stakeholders in the peace process are now asking for more time. Remember, they were, after signing the agreement last year in February, they were given 3 years transitional period, but now they're saying 3 years, nearly 1 year is almost gone. They're saying the time that is left might not be enough, so they require more time. And so that is not something new, because you've seen them move the goalpost before they're changing the deadlines there. So we shall see how that will work out for the people of South Sudan. And what I find to be very interesting, Kidi, is that South Sudan has been the mediator of the peace process in Sudan. Remember, Sudan has also had its problems with rebel groups there, especially from the Darfur region and other parts of the country. And South Sudan, under President Salva Kiir, successfully mediated this process and was able to bring everybody on the table, and they signed an agreement last year, and even the United Nations lauded South Sudan for its role in finding peace and bringing peace and helping mediate peace in Sudan. Of course, there's still some challenges, but they did a good job. South Sudan did that. Why is it that President Salva Kiir cannot do the same for his country? That is something that has baffled me. What do you think is the reason why?
I said something from the outset, and Ambassador will correct me if I'm wrong, that the problem in South Sudan is sanctioned kleptocracy, and that is stealing by the state officers at the very top. It is said and it is known that that President Salva Kiir and members of his extended family don't reside in South Sudan. And over and above that, that most of them are billionaires, and sometimes it is a rumor that it is in US dollars.
You say rumor?
Sorry?
You say rumor, my dear.
It is rumor. That is why
he will come to you, Ambassador. Let him finish, and then he will respond to the rumors.
Thank you.
Be that as it may, the problem in South Sudan is first a demonstration that regional powers like the AU and IGAD and whatnot have not been able to exercise, one, the powers of peer review mechanism in making sure that they their neighbor South Sudan to adhere to certain minimum standards of democracy or of a democratically elected of constitutional democracy, so that we've seen parties in this conflict each having their own armies and militias, which of course, as I said before, end up undermining the authority of the state. We know the role that these bodies played during towards the end of colonialism, especially when you move towards South African countries. You go to Mozambique, you go to Angola, the role that countries, what you call the frontline states, played in ensuring that these countries got independence. In this day and age, we expect that this country should also be able to play that role in ensuring that countries like South Africa, like South Sudan, do not descend into the anarchy that they're descending into. So in my estimation, I think over and above placing the responsibility on the shoulders of Salva Kiir and Riek Machar for fueling this conflict for their personal benefits to the detriment of the ordinary people in South Sudan, responsibilities also lies on the leadership of IGAD and AU and such regional bodies.
All right,
yes.
Thank you. Ambassador, you wanted to respond to the rumors there, but they say where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, it's true, but sometimes when you go to this smoke, you find out just as Fugazi, now it's inside. He says someone said they are richer in billions of dollars is not a joke, Miriam. Believe me, let people understand those numbers. You know, as he was saying, let us see first the role of IGAD. IGAD is a body that come together at least when there is a problem in the region to make sure that the problem can be solved on amicable way. Right, Miriam? If I understand very well.
Yes.
So now, IGAD are doing their best because they bring them together to implement the peace. But the peace implementation, as I was telling, is need time. That's why the government said they need they give them 3 years, and they say 3 years is not enough. They are almost, since Mr. Riek Machar went back, it's almost a year now. They formed the government, and you know that government they have sharing formula. It's not like a united government that Machar has the number of the ministers he brings, and Salva Kiir also his number of ministers. Am I right? It's only country who have five deputy president, only South Sudan. So just to tell you, until now there is no trust because everybody want to hold his part and it's with people at least to have a fair share in the country. Mean that they need this time at least, to dissolve this issue to make that who deserve the position can take it. But for now, they need to build this trust. At the end of the day, when they come together, they will say, okay, right now the country, we are building the peace. Anyone who deserves to be a minister can be. But for now, Machar have to bring his own minister and Salva Kiir have to bring also his own minister, right? To make the country work. But we are glad right now they are working, they learn their lesson, they are moving, right? But now the issue is to blaming or to talking about the resources. You were saying a lot of South Sudanese living in the nice neighborhood in Kenya. Granted,
the leaders,
maybe these people, the leaders, right? Okay, only the leaders who has the nice houses in Kenya.
And people who are closer to the government there.
Okay, and do we find out why? No, we did not find out why. This is the situation in Africa. We need to find out. For me, I always try to find out why only this number of people that have this ability, have the privilege.
There's been a lot of accusations on corruption there in South Sudan, and a lot of money that is coming even through the oil that is not accounted for.
There was not even a country before. There was not a nation. It was just a war. So they say in our language, when you are a general, you are the one setting the rules in the war zone. Am I right or wrong, Miriam? The issues is the democracy is not there. The country has not a fully implementation. Can you do it in Kenya? As a leader can wake up and take money to the treasury and go and buy a house in UK. You can't do it because the country well stable, have its constitution, have its rules. But there is nothing in South Sudan for now. In the future, we know that no one can do it. But for now, it's happening.
So
that's why I was telling
Ambassador, when these claims come out and people say there's a report that was presented, as I said there earlier, to the United Nations Security Council, that the top leadership there in South Sudan are not very keen in finding lasting peace, because when things are in chaos like that, they continue to benefit on, at the mercy of the people of South Sudan. So that explains why maybe.
Well, basically, it's not totally, but Miriam, believe me, if you are a leader and you lead a country that is no peace, whatever amount of wealth you have, you will never be in peace. You will never be happy.
All right. Okay, very well. So
that is the truth of the matter.
We are about to come to the end of the show.
And we know that right now, we know that right now, there is no South Sudanese leader is a happy person. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because all what they have, they are not in peace.
Yeah.
If you are not in peace, what is the sense of the world, Miriam?
You can't enjoy it, definitely.
Thank you.
But almost 1 year later, after signing that peace agreement last year in February, we still see a lot of South Sudanese living in deplorable conditions and languishing in refugee camps, which I think is quite disheartening there. But the latest news, the presidential press secretary says parties to the revitalized peace agreement have agreed to extend the transitional period up to 2023. They had up to 2022. To allow full implementation of critical talks. According to the implementation matrix of the peace deal, many provincials should have been implemented by now, but most of the ambitious reforms have not been initiated or even completed. The others, they've not even thought about starting. And after the government announcing that, a few individuals came out, and parties to the revitalized peace agreement came out and distanced themselves from an earlier statement made by the press secretary in the office of the president on the plan to extend the transitional period. So you wonder what is really happening there in South Sudan. One part of the government comes out and saying we want to extend this peace process, and then the people who are involved in the peace process, who are not consulted or told what is going on, come out and saying, hey, we have no idea what you are talking about. So this confusion and the lack of consensus and coming together when addressing issues of national importance in South Sudan, are these signs that perhaps things are not very well in the leadership there of South Sudan, as we conclude, Douglas, very shortly, because our time is gone.
Miriam, there is no demonstrable goodwill, political goodwill from the leaders in South Sudan, and also their backers, and also people who sponsor humanitarian aid and also peace processes and also capacity building in South Sudan. Because when this report has been tabled at the UN, and if these South Sudan people achieve their peace, these people cannot get money to come and buy houses in Nairobi. All we are asking them is that they should go back to their country and build their country. And also they should stop borrowing Arif from Somalia, who have come in Nairobi and giving us lectures from our posh estates. They cannot continue doing that. And at the end of the day, what we need now is peace in South Sudan, because Kenya has invested in peace in South Sudan and other countries across the region. We saw the President of the Republic of Kenya appoint a special peace envoy in South Sudan. We hope that President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to midwife this conversation on peace in South Sudan, and also get the peace process to its soonest conclusion, because at the end of the day, Miriam, what we are experiencing in South Sudan, it's heart-wrenching, and also it is very sad. Right. Imagine poor people in South Sudan cannot enjoy basic services when these other leaders are splashing money around and also living large in Nairobi. It is very unacceptable, right. And we pray that peace will be found in South Sudan. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much, Kitty. Kitty, are you there, or you've lost the button again to mute? All right. Yes, go ahead. Your conclusion.
I am here. Okay. I am an old man, Miriam, struggling to come to terms with technology.
If you say you're old, I don't know what Ambassador will say. Ambassador, I'm not implying anything, but go ahead, Kitty.
No comment. No comment.
Accepted.
Well,
yeah.
Miriam, I will reiterate something that I've said before, that we set up governments and surrender our sovereignty to governments, so that the government can exercise that sovereign power in the best interest of us all. And therefore, when the people of South Sudan, even after, being referred to as the youngest nation on earth, can still not enjoy the security that comes with surrendering your sovereignty to a government, then it is a very sad scenario. And therefore, the young people of South Sudan who have taken initiatives to ensure that they rebuild trust, that they build institutions that would then help them carry their aspirations into the next, as we get into this new decade of 2020, 2030, 2021, 2030, I hope that the people of South Sudan are going to become more aggressive in ensuring that they resolve their conflicts through peaceful means.
Okay.
Thank you. It was nice having me.
You seem to have given them a lot of time. You're giving them up to 2030. I don't know. Ambassador, conclude
in this decade, in this decade, we hope to see that there is change, and transformative change for that matter. Yes.
Very well. Thank you so much. Ambassador, shortly, conclude for us.
Thank you, Miriam. For me, I believe that South Sudan will get better. Why? Because in order to learn your lesson, sometimes you need to go on the painful side. It's the youngest nation. Some of the nations in this world, they have more than 200 years before becoming better than they are today. So if South Sudan went from 2011 to now just 9 years, it's okay. For me, I think that in the future, those leaders will be tired. They will sit down to say, it's enough. We went through a lot of difficulty. Now is the time we change. Because human beings sometimes need to experiment something different in order to know the value what he has before.
All right.
And we know, both leaders right now have regretted if we ask them. I don't know, you are a journalist, maybe you can have an advantage to ask them, but they will tell you they regret everything what's happening.
Yes.
But they cannot reverse it back. The only way to do that, to try their best to build the country. And we know one day South Sudan will be better. Maybe we Africans from Chad will go and buy also houses in Juba. That's one day will happen. If the country become better, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, I wish them the best. I know they will get well and everything will be okay. Thank you, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much. Very well said, Ambassador Maina Ghana. Thank you so much, Douglas Kirimi and Kidi Morgan. And as hope carries it along, we wish South Sudan all the best, and we shall be looking and tracing and keeping up to date and the developments in line with the revitalized peace agreement. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Agutu. Enjoy the rest of your day.